Hello, friends. Welcome to my daily ad hoc ranting program or internet video program or show. Today's briefing is very simple. There is no doubt to the facts on the ground in Ukraine. Uh, I'm going to sum them up. First fact, which we always knew, is that Russia is really nothing militarily or economically. It's not a viable country. It exists on exports of oil only. Uh, what happened in Chechnya and Syria and partly in Georgia? In Georgia, they did not destroy cities, but they were able to handle the Georgians with the help of the internal regime in Georgia back then. But in Ukraine, they are unable to do what they've done in Syria, like mass destroy cities and so on and so forth. So if their air force is neutralized or is countered effectively, basically Russia, throughout its evolution from the moment communism was born, Lenin and Stalin, the two great brothers, Lenin and Stalin, until now is no longer the same. Same thing is correct and true for Iran and China, which I dub as the tripod of Israel. These countries are not the same anymore. The fundamentals of them as countries is very brittle. It has a very soft nature, very shallow, the structure and fundamentals of them as nations is no longer sturdy and forceful, and their survival depends mainly on horror and terror and concentration camps, such as in China, such as in Iran, killing people, in whether it's in Iran itself or with Iraq, wars with Iraq and in Syria, and Russia in Syria and Chechnya and so on and so forth. That's basically the trend. Due to their nature, they know they cannot win militarily, and Israel, of course, is sitting on top of that big tripod, right? And the top three bricks are really Israel. Chinese regime, Iran's regime, and Russia's regime. So Russia is basically cannot make it through. It's that simple. Have been exposed now due to Ukraine being able to counter their air force, and once their soldiers are exposed to harm, it's very obvious they run. That's fact number one for the West and the East, for that matter. Afghanistan has redefined warfare, modern warfare. As we know, I mentioned this before in another rant on my program, Ad-hoc Ranting, that the Arabs and Afghan fighters basically redefined warfare. And so did Iraq when the United States went to Iraq after 2003. And the only time they were able to do anything in it is when Trump mass murdered people in Mosul and elsewhere, of course, right? And enabled the mass massacres. I'm talking Rabbi Trump, the originally Russian citizen, whose ancestors migrated to the United States. So as you can see, that's point number two is really the scores, or what they call victories, fake victories. It's really not victories, because victories usually are defined on battlefield, not in terms of what's going on. So the policy and the behavior and the practice of this tripod of Israel, and of course the United States is another tripod, which is really the pantry and repository of being gutted in order to transfer to China and Iran and Russia. oil, technology, weapons, finances, manufacturing, you name it, right? But now China has never been able to achieve the status of the United States, which I dubbed way back as Chinese regime is the genetically modified, no, Chinese economy is the genetically modified economy that failed to reproduce, right? Or have offsprings. Why is that? Because there are two problems with it. Number one, the people in there are not technically geared or scientifically geared. Two, it's all given, right? Things acquired are not the same as things made, right? Or invented or discovered. That's a very important fact for everybody to consider. And you, Israel, you cannot correct that. That is inherent and it's innate in nature of the people of the nation. It's in the heart, it's in the mind, it's in the genetics, it's in the genes of the nation and the people. And you can't make it. Let's put it this way. So, anyways, that's point number two. You cannot what happened in the last century and the century before and 1450 years ago. You cannot reproduce by way of transplants and transfer and stealing and thieving and cryptocurrency or virtuality or whatever it is. So that's point number two. Point number one, Russia is really nothing militarily. If United States bears down military, bears down, or even Germany, or even England, or even France for that matter, if they bear down on Russia, if it's gonna be like close combat, like traditional warfare, any military of those which I mentioned will basically wipe out the Russian military in days, at least in the air combat. They will clear their skies in days, and also the ground forces exhibited. You may say, well, they did win close combat and ground forces confrontation in World War II. That's not true. As a matter of fact, hundreds of thousands used to surrender to Germany during one day, every day, for example. They're not warfare type people, let's put it this way. But what happened in World War II is Hitler turned out to be a brother of Stalin and Lenin, of course, being like those early tripod being built of Israel, right? He being Israeli or Jewish, Hitler. He helped his brother Stalin, who was also Jewish, and of course, they managed that ending. But people say if without the Soviet Union, Germany would have not been defeated. That's not true. If it's without America, that Germany would have definitely defeated, finalized completely. I mean, they were what, 19 miles from Moscow? They would have finalized completely the Soviet Union. And if America didn't come into the fight, Soviet Union would not have been able to come into drive westward into Berlin. Period. So it was really the Americans that were very effective in thwarting the failure of the Soviet Union in World War II. So many experts, with ulterior motives, try to justify the failure, the fall of Germany, that by way of Soviet Union. That's not true, folks. Sure, it was a big deal, but it was like when America came into the fight, they withdrew a lot of forces to tie Germany up. And meaningly, if you have two boxers, one is basically dying down and the other one is strong, and then suddenly you shackle the legs of the winning boxer and tie his hands and so on and so forth. Surely, the losing party is going to come and start punching at will and win, right? So that's what happened there. Now, to put it mildly, so number one is really the modern warfare has been redefined. Two, financially speaking, you cannot create financial system or a state that is strong by giving it things. It just doesn't work, right? Number three is this course of action is not going to work. It's not going to succeed. Even if you look into Afghanistan or Syria or Chechnya or Georgia or anywhere for that matter, they still have that notion of communism in their mind. I noticed during this fiasco that's going on in Ukraine now, everybody is calling everybody a Nazi and a fascist. But guess what? Even when Stalini is in Moscow, and he represents that mentality. And we know prior to Nazism, communism committed atrocities and horrors that are extremely deadly and bad, even before. Yet it's never mentioned, as if people, media, and history is trying to completely erase that part, right? But guess what? The world never forgotten communism. Never will. You don't understand people. People know things. It's not like when you when you stop mentioning them in the media and books and so on, that people don't know about them. Oh, no, no, no. You're committing a grave mistake by underestimating people and their faculty, right? I'm one of them, the animal farm. So that's number three. People have aversion to communism, and they still see it alive and well, and they still see it as a menace and darkness and so on. Now, a lot of you folks who support Putin, Pustaline, these Israelis, whether it's in America or here and there, and artists and actors and so on, and they go out and like start barking, crowing against Putin and for Ukraine, but when we know deep down inside they're for post-Stalinine, that's all that doesn't make a difference anymore. There are facts on the ground, and these facts is really what counts. The drive for something happened in the last 2 years. This COVID was an unprecedented pandemic that really was not proven. You can take someone from China, Indonesia, all the way through to Europe and Africa into United States, and I heard so many testimonies, and I know things myself. They never seen anything of it, really. They never witnessed the pandemic itself. I can go on detailing that, the pandemic, the media made it sound so awful that when whatever you heard, if you believed it, then you should go out on the street and then find people dead in their cars and on the sidewalks. That's how bad they portrayed the pandemic as is. But you go out and drive and go anywhere else, there's nothing really. This is called the scaring people of UFOs. That billions of UFOs and from outer planet just landed, but where are they? We don't see them. But here is the secret about it. Just as soon as the pandemic is wound up intentionally, as much as it appeared, no sooner than it appeared, 2 years later, it just disappeared. Meaningly, all these mandates and quarantines and so on were lifted. No masks, no, that's it. Basically it was all over. But suddenly, after those 2 years, when the mandates were lifted, Russia attacked Ukraine. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. Maybe, but I don't think so. I think there was something in the works to steal enough money, because Russia was supposed to attack all Europe and to steal enough money to support, for this transition, if you will, finance this war effort. I believe if Russia was successful in doing what it's doing, then you will have seen China begin military expansion elsewhere, and then you will have seen a lot of wars in the Middle East and so on, probably Egypt and the Gulf countries and all these regimes that work with Israel, right? The Gulf countries, Egypt, Jordan, here and there, they would see the beginning, especially in the west, like west of the Palestine, such as Egypt and so on. You will see a lot of upheaval and so on. I am not seeing anything else really. If you want to point me into anything else, go ahead. Bring up anything else, go ahead. But that has largely faltered, and I cannot say anything else about it. Basically, tea, cup of tea. Thank you, my friends, for watching my today's rant. Today is March 14th, 2022. And thanks for watching my rant today on my show, internet show called Ad-hoc Ranting. Yours truly. Have a nice day. Bye now.